Okay, guys, I promised you yesterday a Unit 1 test review, and here we are. This is going to be less than 15 minutes because that's how long my recorder can go. But I do have a lot to cover, so you may have to pause if I'm going fast and pause, read questions. I'm going to have to kind of move through at a pretty brisk pace. The test has 20 multiple choice questions and one that is a multi-select question, which means it'll have more than one answer in the multiple choice question. 46 points total. Normally you could take the test just one time. However, this time, because I'm getting the review late to you, I'm going to give you 2 attempts at this test. In the future, your unit tests will not have more than one attempt. So I would study your notes, anything you've taken over the past in Class Connects. Those will all be very helpful. Oops, I don't know why this thing moved. Weird. Uh, so let's pay attention to all, because all the following information will be on your test. The first part of the information covers the scientific revolution, this idea that new ideas and new ways to solve traditional problems was taking place instead of looking back to old sources of information. Now problems are going to be solved using the scientific method. The scientific revolution is based on beliefs that the scientific findings overrule traditional beliefs. That involves the heliocentric model, which the sun is the center of the universe, and again, the scientific method. Now, the Catholic Church was opposed to the scientific revolution because they saw these ideas as contradicting religious teachings. Okay. This question here: what is a shared characteristic among Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton? And that is that they utilized science to question established beliefs. Don't go A, B, C, or D when you're looking at this and saying, "Well, I think I remember that question. It's A." These choices may be switched around. It's important to remember the answer. Okay. How did scholars explain the physical world before versus after the scientific revolution? Well, before the scientific revolution, scholars would have relied on religious teachings to answer any kind of problem in the physical world, traditional beliefs, or even superstition like witchcraft and ghosts and all that stuff. After, they would explain the physical world using observation and measurement, experiments, and formal reasoning. Important documents to know that you should kind of have a basic understanding of include the Magna Carta, Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, the U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. Now, the Magna Carta, this is in 1215. It is from England, and it's the first time that this document is the first time that it was established the power of the English king or queen, that's a monarch, is limited. It stated that nobles had certain rights and that the king could not take those away. So it's the beginning of monarchs getting sort of reined in by the people. Wealth of Nations is a very important financial document. It's about our economic setup. It goes over what we kind of have here today with capitalism. It's laissez-faire economics. That means businesses should sort of be left alone from the government, and that should be allowed to let do. Government should permit businesses to operate without intervention. We don't necessarily never intervene in America. We do make sure our businesses have, handicap accessible toilets, and they have to have fire alarms, and they have to have uh, fire exits and fire extinguishers. So there are rules in place, but for the most part, the idea is government should stay out of businesses. Other documents that are important include the Declaration of Independence, which is a breakup letter between America and England, and it's based on the principle that government exists to protect the rights of the people. That's that social contract we've talked about. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. This is the French version of that. This is a French document. The French Revolution happens just a few years after the American Revolution. Actually, within the same, uh, when the American Revolution ends and the French Revolution starts, there's only about a 7 year gap. So, and then the U.S. Constitution is the structure and outline of our government today. Now, the concept that's not associated with the Enlightenment period, if you get this question, and this is where I'm going to go at a little bit of a faster pace, so you may want to pause if I'm going too fast so you can read the questions. In this case, the answer is the concept that is not associated with the Enlightenment is monarchs derive their authority from a divine source and thus are thus exempt from obeying national laws. That's an old idea where kings and queens could just do whatever they want. That's not an Enlightenment idea. Um, this next part is a fun who am I? So you get the description, which person believed man is rational and born equal. They also believed that the right to oppose their government was their right if their rights were not protected. And they also believed in, this is the one that should give it away, natural rights, which is life, liberty, and property. If you see life, liberty, and property, think of John Locke, probably the most famous Enlightenment thinker to influence America when they were creating their Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Okay. This one here, again, it's a long thing to read. It's a little excerpt from John Locke's book, The Two Treatises of Government. So they're asking you which of the following statements is supported by this excerpt of John Locke's Two Treatises of Government. And the answer is that people form governments to safeguard their rights. That's why they form them. Okay. Who am I? Oh, if you see divided among three branches, that means separation of powers. The person that is responsible for separation of powers, in terms of it being a huge Enlightenment idea that we, America, has borrowed, that is Montesquieu. He admires the British system of government. He likes the idea of having a parliament, which is like our Congress. Okay. Checks and balances are a key element of government in the United States. Which of the following is not an example of how the branches of government check and balance each other today? And for this answer, it really helps if you know this, which is this little graphic that shows you that the president, which is the executive branch, has certain powers over the legislation or legislative branch, which is Congress, and the judicial branch, which is like the Supreme Court. And vice versa. The legislative branch, Congress, they have certain powers over the president and the judicial branch. And the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court, they have certain powers over both Congress and the president. So you need to know which of these was not, and that's that last one. This is not true. The judicial branch overrides vetoes made by the executive branch. That's not true. The legislative one does. If this is confusing to you, and I get that it could be, just look at the graphic. It will really kind of help answer some of these questions of what checks and balances are there. This is a long course question, so you may have to pause to read every statement, but historians create thesis statements that explain the significance of historical events and how these events are connected. Each thesis relies on supporting evidence. Given the thesis statement below, which of the following pieces of evidence does not support the thesis? So your job is to read this thesis statement. Enlightenment thinkers challenged traditional beliefs and shaped new ideas about government and society. That should sound familiar because that's from your previous assignment, the 1.11. The answer here is which one does not support these ideas is that Hobbes argued that people are naturally wicked and can be trusted to govern themselves, advocating for the need of absolute monarchs. That would go against this statement. Okay. This is the one where you have to select three factors, three choices that indicate a source is credible. Now we have what? Boom. The author has a degree and work and experience in the area being studied. The author's position is logical and internally consistent throughout the source, which means what he's saying, he or she, is making sense. It's consistent, doesn't flip flop around throughout. The author's evidence is clearly cited and confirmed by other reputable sources. Those are good ways to tell if a source is reliable. Okay, which of the following was one of the causes of the American Revolution? You guys know it because it rhymes. Taxation without representation. Which democratic government principle is illustrated by the grievances listed in the Declaration of Independence? That is, that government must safeguard and respect the rights of its citizens, not infringe upon them. Okay. And where am I at? Oh, which of these statements accurately describes the American Revolution? And it is that it resulted in the establishment of a new country, America, United States of America, with a democratic form of government. Oh, I went a little fast here. Which of the following events triggered the French Revolution? The Enlightenment ideas of natural rights and limited government helped trigger it. The American, French, and Latin American revolutions were influenced by Enlightenment ideas. Which choice below describes the principle these revolutions embraced? And in this case, this is the last question on the review. It is that restricted government authority, inherent rights, that means rights you're born with, self-rule, and a social agreement. So these are the principles that the revolutions embraced, which means they really they took in, they embraced. Okay, we do have one retake, so this last slide is not correct. You have one retake, but make sure you study before you take your test. You can take this test today, which is Friday the 15th, but if you don't feel comfortable taking it today because you still want to study some more, take it over the weekend if you want, even take it on Monday morning. But take it before Monday, I'd say, is over. So I'll be putting zeros in at some point on Monday for those people who missed the test. So it could be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I start putting zeros in. Could be 5. Take it sometime before then. Okay, guys, good luck. If you have any questions, let me know.